Hello everyone, welcome to Chapter 8 Practice. Here is an exercise with several points, namely, the first is what you should do to have a good presentation slide. Before you start with the design part of your presentation, plan your presentation. Here are a few PowerPoint presentation design guidelines to follow when it comes to planning. Number 1 is decide on the presentation goals. First, are you sharing an annual report on creating a pitch deck? Is the goal to increase sales or get the takers up on board with a new marketing tactic? Whatever the case may be, the presentation goals help you decide what to include in your presentation and how that information should be presented. It will also help you with all the other steps involved in creating an effective and engaging presentation. Number 2 is create an outline. With your presentation goal in mind, create an outline for your presentations. You will save time in the long run. Plus, you will be sure that your presentation covers everything you need to cover for your idea or data to be understood. Number 3 is think about the slides you need to include. The next step is to think about the slides you need to include in your presentations. For example, if you're creating a pitch deck for potential investor, sharing information about your company on an about of team slide is a must. But if you are creating an internal presentation to share your sales report, including those slides would be a waste of time. Instead, your presentation should focus on number and data as well as individual product or product line performance. And number 4 is decide on visuals. Your planning stage should account for visual that will help back up for your story. This can include photos, icon, charts, infographic, elements, graphs, table, and everything else you need to make your data more visually appealing. Photo element is a great source for a wide variety of design assets. Once you've decided on the visual you want, gather them all in one place so you can easily locate them. Don't forget that you can create charts and graph for your Excel data if you need it. Be sure to gather those spreadsheets as well. And number 5 is establish your call to actions. Finally, decide what's the next step your audience should take once you're done delivering your presentations. Should they email you or call you to set up an appointment? Do they need to send over information? Make sure your last slide includes your call to action along with specific instruction on what to do. Okay, the next is create attractive and communicative simple business presentation slide that your boss needed. PowerPoint presentation design guidelines. Once you get your presentation plan out, it's time to tackle the design part of creating a presentation. When designing your presentation, keep the following guidelines in mind. Number 1 is keep the text to a minimum. When it comes to your presentations, PowerPoint should assist you in delivering the presentation. It shouldn't be the main source of information. Less is more, so keep the text to a minimum. And number 2 is use large font size. Another thing to keep in mind is that not everybody in your audience will be close to the slides. Make sure to use large font size. Consider using 40 pts for headings and going no smaller than 28 pts for the content text. Number 3 is make sure fonts are readable. While we're on the topic on fonts, avoid using script or decorating fonts. They are hard to read. Stick to sans serif fonts for body text. To emphasize your headings, use a readable serif fonts. And number 4 is use color sparingly. Color can make your presentation more visually appealing, but that doesn't mean you've got to color every slide differently or use different color for your font. If you are presenting in a dark room, consider using a dark background for the slide paired with a light color for the text. It will make it easier for your audience to follow along. Avoid light text on light background or clashing color. They will distract the audience. And the number 5 is enhance the data with charts and graphs. We mentioned earlier you need to decide on the visual you will use in your presentations. Using charts and graphs is a great way to make abstract data easier to understand, so don't shy away from using them. And number 6 is design for widescreen format. Keep in mind that most projector screens are optimized for widescreen, a 19:9 ratio. As such, design your presentation following those PowerPoint presentation guidelines. If you design your presentation in 4:3 ratio, your presentation will still work, but some part of your slide might get cut off or not displayed properly. Again, the number 7 is be consistent with style setting. Another important bit of PowerPoint design guideline is to keep your design style consistent across all sites. This will reinforce your brand image as well as ensure that the entire presentation is visually appealing. And the number 9 is use animation sparingly. There's nothing wrong with using subtle animation for slide transition to keep things interesting, but avoid animating every single word or slide, as this will make your presentation look amateurish and unprofessional. And number 9 is proofread everything. Be sure to proofread each slide to make sure that there are no embarrassing types. If you are mentioning other associates or colleagues in your presentations, make sure their names are spelled correctly to avoid any awkward moment. Ask another person to go through your presentation and make sure it's error-free. And the last is consider using a template. Our last guideline for making an effective PowerPoint presentation is to consider using a pre-made PowerPoint template. A pre-made template will have a professional design. It will also have all the slides you will need, from section break slides, company and team slides to chart, galleries, and more. This will save you a lot of time in the design stage and ensure that your presentation looks pleasing. Okay guys, and the last slide is an example of how to making very attractive and communicative presentation slide. Make it simple and concise but clear and still convey the points. This is one example for the business slide, for the slide presentation, the good ones. Okay guys, thank you for watching. Hopefully what we convey can be useful for you guys. See you.